All right. Want you to first hear how it sounds now. Doesn't sound too good. Just kind of sounds just like a head on a trash can right now. What I usually like to do, I usually like to start with scratch. Detune it completely, just enough to where you get all these lugs back down. And there's 1,000 different ways to tune a snare, so know that this isn't the only way to do it. It's just my way. It's worked for me. I've learned from other drummers. And I can see that some lugs were like really tight, some were really loose, so this thing was all out of whack. Alright, so I basically just have these loose. So I'm just gonna kind of just start off by getting them all to where they're even. Nothing crazy. I'm not tightening down, just enough to keep snug. Alright, and believe it or not, I'm not even going to focus on the top head. I just wanted to get that to where it was nice and snug. We're going to focus on the bottom head. Bottom head, I was telling Chris a little earlier, to me is more important than your top head. Personally, I don't find that to be a fact. It's just for me. If I really focus in on my bottom head, I feel like it's a lot easier to tune the top head. So I'm doing the same things I did with the top, and then I'm gonna crank down on this bottom head. All right, so loosen this bad boy up. All right, and to recap, I just loosened the bottom head completely. I'm gonna shove a stick in between the snare and the head. That way you don't have any snare touching. It's basically just that. So, as I mentioned before, just get all these kind of snug, and we'll go to town here in a minute. All right, so here we go. I'm just gonna start cranking. Make sure you do kind of even amount of spins. Kind of going 2.5 spins. Not that it's 100% accurate, but no biggie. All right, I'm gonna check. So far, staying pretty even. Going around and just kind of about a quarter turn, a little less than a half. This one's still a little lower in pitch. And we'll do it one more time and we'll be done with this bottom head. Again, maybe a quarter turn. And we should be good. We're good with the bottom. So flip the snare back over. I'm not really too focused in on the snare wires right now. We'll come to that really at the end. That's just more kind of dialing it in, last finish touches. So now, remember, we really loosen this up. So it's just a dead head, also known as the batter head. So now I'm just gonna start cranking down pretty evenly. And we're going for a nice little snap pop to it with a little bit of body. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'll make sure doing this right. So about here, we want to test kind of what it sounds like. A little tighter than I like, so I'm going to kind of bring it back down a little bit. Just a tad. There's a thicker head, by the way. The batter head's pretty thick, so you can get away with running a little bit looser on it. So now we got snares. I can hear them too much. I'm going to get more pop. Getting that nice little pop, and there's a tad little ring in there that we'll have to kind of play with and get rid of. Shouldn't be too hard. Still hearing a lot of snares. So is what we have right now. Nice little snap out of it. Now it's a higher pitch snap because of the resonant head. We crank down quite a bit on it. In fact, I'm going to play with it a little bit and just kind of barely loosen up the resonant head here on the bottom. I mean, when I say barely, I mean every bit of barely. It's a lot easier to flip it over, but I'm lazy.
Lazy is good.
Lazy's good. I like to cut corners. Not in life. I get a little bit more of a low end, not as much ting to it. Alright, I'm going to throw this moon gel on there after tuning. Just kind of give a nice little. So now we got some body, we got some snap, nice and tight. You don't hear a lot of looseness in it. You can even kind of play with these snares a little bit more, tighten them up if you want them more tighter. Get a nice little just pop. A lot of guys like to hear those snares, nothing wrong with that. You can loosen it back up. Marching band sound. I personally like them tight. So we'll go back to tight. And that's it. That's how you tune a snare. So now we have our bottom head completely detuned. As you can see, that thing is dead. So what I'm going to do, differently from the snare, I don't crank down necessarily on this one. A 12-inch tom is not the easiest tom to tune. I feel like 8/10s and 14, 16, and 18s are the easiest, the 12 being the hardest. So I just like to kind of get this nice and just even, snug all the way around. And we're not going for sound right now. We're just going for being even all the way around. You probably can't hear it as well on your end, but there's a few spots in here that I can hear. There's a tad off. We're gonna move to the top head real quick. We might come back to the bottom. I just wanted to get it nice and snug before I move to the top. Tune the top, might have to go flip them back and forth because like I said, the 12-inch is the hardest, so it takes a little bit more. All right, so as mentioned before, we're now on to the batter side. We just kind of made the resonance nice and snug. Might have to go back to it. But for the top now, for your batter, we're going to get this nice and snug, nothing super tight. It's already sounding not too bad. I feel like there's a little bit of ring, but that's coming from the bottom. So real quick, I'm just going to slightly loosen, and when I mean slightly loosen, I mean less than a quarter of a turn. That one was actually already kind of loose. So as you see, it just honestly, I was one of the easiest tuning jobs I've ever done, and I do give it all credit to this Onyx Evans Level 360 head. They are super easy to tune, very forgiving for a lot of people that have trouble tuning. I recommend the Onyx 360 Evans. And that's without a gel. We could throw a gel on there because we do mic these drums, so we want to be able to get a good mix out of them. Nice and tight, have nice do. You want the rawness of the tom as well. You don't want to get it so tight or so loose to where you lose the sound of the actual drum. So as you can hear it has nice do and it dies perfectly. And that's as easy as that. And we have ourselves a tuned 12-inch tom.